Their last game, a loss against Phoenix, these were the back-to-back plays she was involved in on the offensive end. Created a lot of conversation over the past week. Clark would continue playing the rest of the second quarter and then would leave the middle of the third quarter with a back end.
You're watching the WNBA's biggest star go from dishing dimes and draining Lobo threes to limping off the court, clutching her side, face twisted in pain. This season alone, not once, not twice, music, but 4 times. The Indiana Fever brushed it off as a minor tweak every time. They call it day-to-day, just some soreness, they say. But now her own physician is stepping in, and what he's saying could change everything. If you're enjoying this content, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 83% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and takes only a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for the support. Now, back to the video, because the real story behind Caitlin Clark's injuries isn't just one superstar's suffering. It's about what's being hidden, who's being silenced, and why the WNBA could be on the verge of losing the biggest asset it has. So let's break it down. A dangerous pattern. Fans already knew the routine by the time Clark limped off the court during the brutal Fever Sun game. Got a hard screen, a rough fall, and then the limp again. But nobody realized how deep this injury spiral actually ran. This was more than a groin strain. It was the 4th lower body injury in 2 months. Left quad, left groin, same story, different side. Experts now call it a textbook compensation injury pattern, where one injury quietly forces the body to overcompensate, triggering a strain somewhere else. It's whack-a-mole with pain, and the longer it's ignored, the worse it gets. Yet the Fever kept insisting she was fine, just a little stiff. The daily lie, really, because teams like to keep things in-house. This is where the red flags start stacking up, according to several orthopedic specialists speaking off the record. Caitlin's injuries are far from day-to-day in severity. At best, we're talking week-to-week, and only with full rest, care, and rehab. Instead, she's flying cross-country, logging more than 30 minutes a game, and making promotional appearances for a league, clearly cashing in on her fame without protecting the body behind it. Some fans have started calling it exploitation, how the body broke down. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. Heading into the season, Clark reportedly packed on noticeable muscle, likely to prepare for the more physical pro game. But when added muscle isn't properly integrated, it shifts biomechanics even as it adds strength and durability. Her shooting mechanics changed slightly. Her natural gait shifted along with subtle changes in how she moves. The WNBA schedule is punishing, with back-to-back games, God-relentless defensive pressure, and barely any time to recover. The result, a body pushed past its limits, forced to compensate for every injury until it finally gives out. The breaking point, the Connecticut game. And that's exactly what happened during the Fever's matchup against Connecticut Sun. It wasn't just that she got up slowly, it was how she reacted. She winced. She tried to shake it off. She doubled over, hands on her knees. But the tears were the real tell. Clark, normally stone-faced on the court, broke down on the bench. This wasn't just physical pain. It was frustration, fear, and complete emotional exhaustion. Even so, the league called it slight discomfort. Imagine LeBron doing that during his rookie year. Would the NBA downplay it, do you think? Exactly. A trust broken with the team. What plenty of fans already suspected has now been confirmed by people close to Clark's camp. She's no longer relying solely on the Indiana Fever's medical staff. She's bringing in outside experts, biomechanical evaluators, regenerative treatment consultants, and NBA-caliber specialists. Because at this point, trust has been broken. And can you really blame her? When your team treats a string of compounding injuries like they're just a bruise, the focus shifts from basketball to self-preservation. This isn't about missing music games. It's about protecting a career. Enter advanced music treatment. So what's next? Reports suggest Clark's medical team is considering a range of cutting-edge regenerative treatments to stabilize her recovery. We're talking biomechanical retraining to correct the imbalances that caused this in the first place and prevent re-injury, stem cell therapy to speed healing in damaged muscle fibers, and hyperbaric oxygen treatments to reduce inflammation and boost circulation. The goal here isn't just healing. Her body needs a full reset before this spirals further. Yet the Indiana Fever organization hasn't mentioned any of these methods. They're still feeding fans the day-to-day line. People are waking up. Fans aren't fools. They see what's happening. Every time Clark limps down the court, every time she grabs her hip, every time she vanishes from the bench during timeouts, music people notice. And more than that, they're angry. The hashtags are already trending, protect Caitlin, Feverfail, not day-to-day. Her own family has quietly raised concerns, and other players have started voicing frustration over how the league protects, or fails to protect, its stars. The real question isn't whether something needs to change, it's when. On athlete empowerment. Let's zoom out again. What we're seeing with Caitlin Clark is part of a bigger shift in pro sports, where elite athletes no longer just defer to team doctors. They're taking charge of their own bodies, hiring their own specialists, and speaking up when something feels wrong. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about loyalty to a jersey. It's about surviving in the workplace. Clark didn't fight her way to the top just to watch it fall apart because someone else didn't take her injuries seriously. She's taking back control, and that might be the smartest move of her career so far. What this means for the WNBA. This is a turning point for the league. If they want Caitlin Clark to remain the face of the WNBA, if they want the TV deals, the packed arenas, the sold-out merchandise, they need to finally do the one thing they've failed at so far. Keep her safe. That means cracking down harder on dangerous plays. It means better travel conditions. It means being transparent about medical evaluations. And yes, it may mean stepping in when teams mishandle injuries, because if the league can't prove it takes care of its stars, those stars won't stick around. A comeback is coming, but on her terms. Here's the hopeful part. Clark isn't done, not even close. Now that she knows exactly who's in her corner and what she needs to protect herself, this injury saga could end up being the best thing that's ever happened to her. She'll rest. She'll heal. She'll come back stronger. But it won't be because someone told her she was day-to-day. It'll be because she chose to heal the right way. Here's what we've learned. Caitlin Clark isn't just fighting defenders on the court. She's fighting an entire system off of it. One that's quick to profit, slow to adapt, and far too willing to ignore warning signs until it's too late. But she's done playing along. With outside doctors, cutting-edge treatments, music, and a new outlook on her health, Clark is charting her own path. One that doesn't ask for permission. One that refuses to call it day-to-day when the truth is far more serious. And one that might just set a new standard for athlete empowerment in women's sports. If there's one thing we already know, it's this. Don't bet against Caitlin Clark. There's a saying in sports. Pain is temporary, pride is forever. But pride isn't healing Caitlin Clark's groin. Ice baths aren't fixing the structural flaws in her environment. And ever since her rookie season began, the cycle of re-injury has been spinning like a rigged carousel, and no motivational quote is going to stop it. What's unfolding here isn't just a physical breakdown. It's a cultural one. Because Caitlin Clark has become a lightning rod, not only for defenders trying to wear her down, but for every failure, every outdated system, and every shortcut the WNBA and the Indiana Fever have tried to take in managing the face of their league. And now she's done waiting. The illusion of healing. Here's the part they don't want you to see. Clark has been limping through workouts, wincing during lateral drills, and sitting out entire scrimmages hidden behind pre-game warm-ups and vague game-time decision labels. She's been going through the motions, but anyone paying attention can see she's not fully there, not even close. When the Fever say she's improving, what they mean is she can jog up the court without collapsing. That's not progress. That's desperation. And jogging is a death sentence for her style of play because her game runs on speed, angles, and split-second decisions. The real cost of playing through pain. To be clear, most athletes push through discomfort to compete. That's part of the job. What separates the smart ones from the cautionary tales is knowing when to say no. Too many times, Clark said yes. Yes to continuing after the first groin pull. Yes to grinding through back-to-backs with 0 rest days. Yes to sore joints and aching muscles from headlining promotional events and media appearances. She gave the WNBA everything it asked for and then some. But what she needed was time, attention, and a smart medical plan. Instead, she got silence. Now she's paying the price. A lack of support from veterans. One of the more startling parts of Clark's injury story is how few veteran players have publicly stood up for her. Where are the established voices of the women's game? There's no collective outcry from players who've lived this reality for years. There's a quiet divide in the league between newer stars, like Clark, who arrived with instant fame and major endorsements, Xod and the veterans who ground it out without national recognition. That tension is real, and it's part of why Clark's situation has felt so isolating. Sure, there are the occasional supportive tweets and quiet words of encouragement, but there's been no organized show of solidarity befitting the generational star that she is. And maybe that's part of the problem. Being Caitlin Clark is a business. The Fever aren't just managing a player, they're managing a brand. Caitlin Clark jerseys fly off the shelves. Her highlights dominate SportsCenter. She sells tickets, fills arenas, and drives broadcast deals. So when the face of your franchise says, "I'm not feeling right," you music don't treat it as a medical issue. You treat it like a marketing emergency. If your star isn't on the court, how do you sell the product? That pressure trickles down to trainers, PR staff, and coaches suddenly forced to spin injury updates like press releases. So instead of a clear injury timeline, fans get vague talk of slight discomfort. Instead of a real break, Clark gets managed minutes. Instead of rest, she gets reassurances. Everyone's just breathing the same smoke and mirrors. Fans are starting to turn. Here's the hard part. Clark entered the league with more goodwill than most athletes earn in 10 years. But the injury drama, combined with on-court tension and vague updates, has bred impatience. Some fans are starting to wonder if she's being coddled. Why can't she push through? Why does everything seem to follow her around? That's what happens when transparency breaks down. People fill in the blanks with their own stories. In reality, though, Clark isn't fragile. She's worn down. She's not avoiding games. She's being music pushed into them before she's ready. And if fans can't see that, it means the league hasn't done its job. A franchise at a crossroads. For the Indiana Fever, this was supposed to be the defining season. Caitlin Clark's arrival was meant to signal a new era. Ticket sales, national attention, finally climbing out of the bottom of the standings. Instead, they built on top of her instead of around her. They handed her the keys to a team with no veteran leadership structure, no backup plan, and no safeguards in place to protect their star. Now, with tension building behind the scenes, the organization has a choice to make. Do they keep leaning on the day-to-day script, or do they finally commit publicly to a long-term approach built on real team development, sustainability, and player wellness music? So far, they've chosen silence, and silence rarely wins championships. The playbook going forward. If Caitlin Clark wants to take control of her future, and she clearly does, there are a few moves left to make. 1. Go dark. Shut it down completely. No half-speed comebacks. No arbitrary deadlines that pressure her into media appearances and make her look unreliable. Let the groin heal fully. 2. Music control the narrative. Speak directly, not through the team, not through league-approved talking points, but through her own platform. She has enormous reach. She has the power to shape her own story. 3. She needs to push for medical independence, full say over who oversees her recovery, if she doesn't have that already. This isn't college anymore. She's a professional. The best experts in the world should be working for her. 4. Rethink Indiana's future. Uncomfortable as it is, this is a real consideration. Her rookie contract won't last forever. If the Fever keep treating her more like a mascot than a franchise cornerstone, plenty of other teams will be ready to build a real dynasty around her. What the league needs to do. The WNBA carries responsibility here too. Because if Caitlin Clark burns out early due to mismanagement, that's not just an Indiana problem. That's a crisis for the entire league. They need to step in and establish real player protection protocols. They need to review team medical standards. Above all, they need to support their stars, not just market them. The league loves putting Clark's face on billboards and bumpers. Now it's time to show up when it actually matters. Caitlin Clark never asked to save the WNBA, but her talent turned her into a symbol of hope, gaga progress, and the pinnacle of women's basketball. Right now, she represents something else entirely, a cautionary tale. A reminder that even the most talented people can burn out when the people around them forget there's a human body behind the stats and the shoe deals. One that breaks, bends, gets and bleeds like anyone else's. This isn't just a comeback story, it's a warning. Clark isn't just playing for the Fever anymore, and the WNBA needs to pay attention before this becomes a full-blown crisis. She's playing for every young girl who dreams of reaching the top without being broken by the climb. When Caitlin Clark walked off the court against Connecticut, clearly in pain, it wasn't just a medical issue, it was a turning point. A long simmering storm between her, the Indiana Fever, and the wider WNBA ecosystem finally erupted into a full-blown crisis. Because missed all-star appearances and groin injuries weren't the only things at stake anymore. Now power, credibility, and the future of an entire league hinged on the health of one person. A star on the sidelines, a league on the edge. Let's be honest, Caitlin Clark's absence from All-Star Weekend wasn't just disappointing. From a business standpoint, it was a disaster. Her presence was the backbone of primetime ratings, brand partnerships, and ticket sales. Networks counted on her. She drew massive crowds. Sponsors put her face on their merchandise. And then she was gone. A few vague comments about tightness, a couple of cryptic lines in a press release, and Caitlin's forced smile at Media Day said everything. I'm fine. That wasn't just a letdown. It was a wake-up call because it made one thing painfully clear. The WNBA built a tower on a cracked foundation, and Caitlin Clark has been holding up far more than she should have to. The league's PR shield is cracking. Behind the scenes, league executives and team reps have spent months trying to paper over the situation with vague optimism. The same recycled lines every week. We're monitoring the situation. She's progressing. She's a competitor. But fans aren't buying it anymore. The facade is falling apart. Social media scrutiny is only growing. Every limp Clark takes gets dissected in a new thread. Every clip of her wincing mid-play. Every time a coach downplays her pain as a little stiffness. In reality, that little ache is the result of serious wear and tear, overuse, and muscular imbalance. The kind that doesn't disappear with tape and a Gatorade. And the longer the league tries to minimize it, the more credibility it loses. Whispers in the locker room. Behind closed doors, the mood in the Fever locker room has shifted. Being part of the most anticipated rookie arrival since Diana Taurasi reshaped a franchise started out exciting. But it's since turned tense. Veterans aren't just frustrated by losses. They're irritated that one player is constantly the center of attention. There are quiet complaints about touches, rotations, and even perceived medical favoritism, even though that player is objectively carrying the team. Despite the roster struggling to stay above 500, just several players reportedly feel the whole organization bends over backward for Caitlin. Ironically, though, Caitlin feels abandoned when it matters most. This isn't jealousy, it's misalignment. Supporting a star of this magnitude requires building an entire ecosystem around her, not just on the court, but in the front office, the training room, and the PR strategy. Right now, that system is failing. What Indiana should have done? If this were a different team or league, here's how it would have played out. The moment Caitlin pulled her groin, she'd be shut down immediately for 2 to 3 weeks. Top specialists would be flown in, no expense spared. Alongside treating the injury, a personalized recovery plan would be built to prevent it from happening again. Meanwhile, the team would rally around her absence. Coaching adjustments, redistributed workload, and PR framing the injury as part of a long-term plan. God, Indiana didn't do any of that. Instead, Clark was back on the floor before she could catch her breath. Minute restrictions were inconsistent. Health updates stayed vague. And every time she winced after a play, the camera cut to a coach acting like nothing happened. That's not care, that's damage control. Clark's camp is making moves. If you think Caitlin is simply waiting this out, think again. Her team, trainers, agents, and even trusted advisors from her Iowa days is quietly but aggressively taking back control. Word is they've already started assembling a medical team outside of the Fever's staff. They're reaching out to sports science programs God typically reserved for top NBA talent. They're contacting orthopedic specialists, music sleep coaches, even biomechanics consultants who work with Olympic sprinters. This isn't a player just trying to finish out the season. This is a generational athlete preparing to outlast the chaos surrounding her. And that's exactly what worries Indiana. Because when a player this valuable starts distancing herself from the team that drafted her, it's a warning sign. Not just for her current team, but for every franchise hoping to sign her once her rookie deal expires. Let's talk about 2026. Because everyone already sees where this is heading. If Indiana doesn't fix this soon, Caitlin Clark will leave. It won't be quiet. It won't even be dramatic. It will be strategic. She'll walk into a franchise built around a player-first culture, one stacked with proven stars who want to play with her, not around her. A team with a medical staff running cutting-edge recovery protocols, and a market that values her impact both on and off the court. And you know what? Teams are already preparing for that possibility. Do you think the Liberty haven't already talked cap space internally? Do you think the Aces wouldn't rearrange their roster in a heartbeat to make room? Do you really believe Nike isn't quietly nudging Clark toward a bigger market, given the multi-million-dollar endorsement track she's reportedly on? Unless Indiana wakes up, this isn't speculation anymore, it's inevitable. What this means for the future of the WNBA. Let's zoom out for a second. Caitlin Clark isn't just a great player, she's a stress test. Her situation is exposing every weakness the league has ignored for years. Weak infrastructure for developing stars, fragile player-team relationships, outdated medical practices, and murky injury reporting. If you want to be a major sports league, you can't treat generational talent like an interchangeable part. You need systems, not just rosters. Systems built to protect, support music, and elevate your best players. Because if you don't, sponsors, international prospects, college stars, music, and the next generation of players will all be watching how your biggest star gets treated. And right now, the optics are bad. Fans know more than the league expected. If there's one thing the WNBA underestimated, it's the intelligence and attentiveness of its own fan base. This isn't the early 2000s anymore. Fans actually read injury reports. They follow athletic trainers online. They break down kinesiology in Reddit threads. They're spotting weak gaits, altered mechanics, and off strides before the league's official account even posts the final score for. You can't gaslight this audience anymore. People know when Caitlin isn't right, and they will call out, loudly, publicly, and consistently, any mishandling of her situation. Even though this story centers on Caitlin Clark, it's really about what comes next for the WNBA. Because how the league handles this, how it adjusts course, protects its players, music, and rebuilds trust, will determine whether it's ready for the spotlight Clark helped bring it. This is a defining moment, and defining moments don't just reveal character, they shape it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Click the video on screen,